So welcome today, everyone. We've got a wonderful guest, Gordon Smith. Some of us met him at the conference in August, and he's brilliant. He's an international medium, public figure, and author of, I believe, over 20 books. He sold several million copies, and he's developed an outstanding natural ability, the mediumship capabilities. He's got the gift, that's for sure. And I think I heard or read somewhere that Gordon's been touted as being the most accurate medium in the UK. So we've got a big hitter today, and we certainly appreciate him making time for us, the fathers. They had one for helping parents heal, but he agreed to do one just for the dads, and I think that's really special. And I appreciate you guys all showing up too on a Saturday afternoon, and I think this is going to be great. So I'm not going to keep talking. I'll hand it off to Gordon, and he can supplement with whatever he'd like to.
Thank you very much, Mike, and hi, everybody. But before I get into anything, I'm going to quickly pass you on to Jackie, who worked with me, because I know Jackie wants to bring up something at the beginning before we get started. So, Jackie, hi.
Thanks. Hi. Yeah, just to reiterate, everybody, good afternoon. Gordon will let you know when there's an appropriate time to ask some questions, whatever he's going to speak about this afternoon. So if you're very familiar with the reactions button, you can raise that virtual hand. I'm not able to unmute you, but I will call your name and ask you to unmute yourself. You can ask Gordon the question, and if we can keep it to one each, that would be great. If there's more time, we can come back round again. But as I said before, if necessary, please use the chat and send me your question through, and we can pick a few of those and give those to Gordon as well. But don't hesitate. If you need something from me, send it to me in chat and we can see what we can do for you. But have a great session anyway. I'm going to hand you straight back to Gordon.
Thanks, Jackie. So can I say welcome, everybody, and it's a pleasure to come and serve you guys tonight. It's part of what I do in my life, and it's part of what I've done since I have been a young adult. I have used my ability as a medium to turn it into a gift, because I really believe it only becomes a gift when you share it with people. There are many people who have such abilities, but for me, from very early on, I realized that I wanted to use it to help people, and I've been doing that since my early 20s. So for me, it's always a joy when I work with people who genuinely need mediumship. I'm not a fortune teller. I'm none of these things that I can predict your life or stuff like that. I cannot do that. My job is to connect people with their loved ones in the afterlife, or the continued life, I'd say, because for me, that's really what it is, guys. Now, I'm not an end of peer medium, someone who sits under a tent with scarves over my head. I'm a very down-to-earth, regular person. I'm Scottish, therefore I am very grounded in reality. Us Scots are people who I think are very much in touch with reality. And those of you who I met at the conference that you had in Phoenix, Arizona, can I just say, very hot country. If you're Scottish, it's too hot. My skin is blue when I come to hot countries like that. I'm like a vampire, I fry. So it was a very, very hot place. So the only place I could find refuge, which where all Scottish people go to, was in the bar. And it was in the bar that I met some cracking guys and just chatted. And for me, mediumship should not be put up in a pedestal. You're no different as a medium as you are as anyone else. And you have something you may be able to help someone with. I've often said in my life, who I am is not that important. What I can do for people is, when it works. But meeting everybody at the Congress back in August was a lovely thing, because my mediumship and my journey as a medium is very different from many other people's. I am not religious. I am not highly spiritual in any way. I just have a faculty of my being that can connect with spirits on the other side. And that's something I've done since I was a young lad, a little boy actually. I would give astounding information to my parents and neighbours and things that would shock them. But as a child, you have no idea that what you're doing is any different from any other child. So once again, I say, I don't think I stood out. It was just something that felt natural. And it was in my young life, in my early 20s, that a colleague of mine, I worked in a hairdressing salon in Glasgow, and one of my colleagues' brothers died. And the evening he died, or the night he died, he appeared in my bedroom for no reason other than I must have had something that the guy could feel as he died. The moment of his death, he was in my room for a moment. And I mean, I was startled, to say the least. Not frightened, but startled to see a guy, maybe 22, 23 years old, standing there like a real person, not lit up, not like a ghost or some spooky thing. Just a guy standing, wearing a tartan shirt and blue jeans. And that's what he was wearing when he died. He died in a house fire. And at that moment, I had no knowledge of that. And I remember feeling my heart racing, what felt like my heart racing. And no sooner had I seen it than he disappeared through my floor, gone. It was an incredible moment in my life. And in that moment, I just had this incredible awareness that there was policeman and woman coming to my door. And in that instant, the door knocked really loudly. And I jumped from my bed, quite startled, as I say, threw on anything. I knew the police were going to be there, and they gave me a set of keys and said, you know, a Miss Christine Peebles. And I said, is she okay? And that was all I could remember. I said, is she okay? And they said, she's fine, but you have to go and take the keys and open up the salon in the morning. She cannot make it. She held the keys to our hairdressing salon. Anyway, I put on my radio, clock radio at the side of my bed. We're going back to the 90s here when people had clock radios. And it came on that there was a fire in a street called Buckingham Terrace. And I thought, well, if Christine's okay, who died? And though I'd had that incredible experience, it's amazing when you're faced with somebody you know dying, everything else goes out of the window. And I totally put it out of my mind that her brother had appeared in front of me. And then it came across, it was a young man. They gave his name. And I thought, wow, that's incredible. He was there. I couldn't speak to my friend for days because of her grief and, you know, just the state she would be in. She had been in the fire with her brother and apparently had tried to save him herself. Firemen dragged her away from the scene. She was only 19 when that happened, and she was distraught. So for me, I realized what had happened to me was something that had begun in my childhood and it had suppressed. And that was that I had visions, voices, and sensations of another world. And I think as I came through puberty, all of that went away. And this was at reopening when I was 21. And it was at that time that I followed my feelings and learned to develop my abilities. And it was through that young woman and her brother's death that I sit where I sit now and do what I do. Because I asked her as a friend, what can I do for you? And all you guys who've had a loss, you've had your best friends, family come to you and say, how can we help? Let us do something. And when I asked my friend Christine this, she said, take me to see a medium. And in all my life, I had no idea what a medium was. I thought, what's a medium? And I had to go and look it up. And even though I'd had an interest in psychic things when I was a kid, I didn't really know what a medium was. And through the grapevine that is hairdressing, a lot of my friends said, there's actually a spiritualist church in Glasgow. So I found out about that, took my friend there when she was ready to attend such a thing. And instead of the medium speaking to her, the medium spoke to me and said, the young man on the front row. She said, you're a medium. And I looked behind me, I looked to either side. Who's the woman talking about? And she said, the young lady beside you. She's just had a tragic loss, but you saw who died. It was her brother. And this, my friend looked at me and I'm thinking, oh my God, it was like being outed somewhere. It was the strangest feeling. And I eventually had to share with my friend that, you know, I had seen this experience or had this experience. And she said, why would you not tell me that? And I said, I felt crazy. To be honest, I don't know. That doesn't seem normal. Anyway, our medium that evening said, I want this young man to go to a development group. And I also want this young lady to see a man called Albert Best. He's a medium. Now, Albert Best, guys, was the best medium I've ever witnessed in my life. I was lucky to become or taken under his wing when I was in my early 20s. And Albert Best was the greatest medium alive at that time, I would say. He really was. And he came into my life at that time. Albert Best lost his wife and 3 children in a bombing. So like you guys, he knew what it was like to lose his family, to lose his kids. And Albert dedicated the rest of his life as a young man at 24, losing his entire family. He dedicated the rest of his life to helping other people. And Albert's gift came to full light whenever it was to help families who'd lost children. So I was brought up in that energy. Albert Best never charged a penny to people for what he did. I don't either, because it was our feeling that our gift came from another source, and that source was to help people. We don't accuse anybody of anything when they charge money for readings or things. It's not what we're doing it for. We do it because we feel it's part of a gift, and that gift should be shared with people. But Mr. Best taught me through my life how to be honourable to people. We don't want to stand out and say, oh, look how great we are. That's not what we do. So when newspapers and things say, oh, Gordon is whatever, the most accurate medium in the UK, or Albert Best was the greatest medium in the world, we take no notice of that. We're only as good as our last message we give, guys. And because we don't charge for it, we can also be honest with you and say it's not working today. And I've always trusted mediums who can say it's not working today. And I say this to you because in many ways you can be put into a vulnerable state with mediums who can talk around you and tell you all sorts of wonderful things about an afterlife and the spirit world and stuff like that. I'm very pragmatic when it comes to this stuff. It has to have meaning. It has to have purpose, but it has evidence that you can believe. And it was because of that background that I had that I was selected, as was Mr. Best, by scientists who were fascinated by what we did. And several of us were asked to work with Glasgow University for 6 years, where they tested our mediumship. And these tests were rigorous. They were so kind of accurate, the way they did them, that we could never be accused of fraud, because we were very rarely even with people when we did it. We could not be accused of reading body language, because to read body language, you first have to have a body in front of you. Quite often we were never in the same room as the people we read for. And yet the evidence that came through was still somewhere between 95 and 100% accurate. It actually became more accurate when we didn't see the people in what they called triple blind tests. These tests ran for something like 6 years. And I wanted to take part in this. Many mediums ran a mile from it, but I wanted to do it because I had nothing to lose, nothing to gain either, other than me saying what I'm doing has to be real. Nobody needs to believe it more than the medium if the medium's genuine, because you're going to put yourself up in front of people and talk to them about their loved ones. And you need to honor the responsibility that comes with that. I can't throw out nonsense to people and generalities and expect people to believe it. You guys have lost children. Some of you have lost parents, partners, as well as that. And it needs to be something that resonates with your heart when we give messages to you. It needs to be something that changes your life. Messages should be like that when they come from a genuine medium. They shouldn't be circumstantial and flimsy. It should tell you something. It should tell you one thing more than anything, that your loved one hasn't died, that their consciousness lives on. I say this to you guys because in my life now, I must have read for, I don't know how many 100,000 people. And in all of that time, every message that has come through has been one of joy from the other side, has been healing, helpful, and in many, many cases, almost all, have allowed people to move a step further in their grief. No medium can take away your grief. I have told all my students that. I tell everybody that whenever I'm working as a medium. I can't take away grief, but the spirit message that comes through can give you tools to help you work with your grief. And that's the best we can do. Because just recently, I read for a lady in Switzerland. And no matter where I go, no matter which country, which language, the spirit world always comes through. And nobody's more surprised than me. Even I was in Japan 4 weeks ago, and somebody said, how's it going to work when you work to a Japanese audience if you don't speak Japanese? I said, I have no idea. All I know is I'm standing here. Something will happen. And whatever it is, I'll explain it. And my translator said, okay, so, I will explain da. And while she was explaining, I just said, oh, excuse me, there's a Mr. Okinawa here. His wife's at the back. Mrs. Okinawa, who are you? Lady put her hand up. I'm Mrs. Okinawa. Do you come from Kyoto? Yeah. I said, yeah, your husband's here. So what's going on? And so to me, if the medium's brave enough to say what's in their head, it will come through. And I started to laugh, and they said, why are you laughing? And I said, because I've never heard myself say Japanese names before. This is quite funny. So, because I'm hearing it for the first time, it's like, oh, okay. So that was fun, and it was great for the people because the messages were relevant and helpful. And that was something that was very special. But if you've done it all your life, then, it's something that comes to you, you trust it the more you do it. I would never do this for anybody if I didn't feel it was real. As I say, I've been tested by scientists. I've been argued with priests, ministers, psychiatrists, psychologists. I've had the whole world in front of me telling me you're a fake, you're a fraud, you're a this, you're a that. And I still somehow seem to be here. I think I remember being in one European country, is all I'll say, when I ended up on their 6 o'clock news. And I had no idea, why am I being dragged on the 6 o'clock news live? And I was there to argue with a cardinal who said, you are the devil. And I happened to be wearing a red Scottish kilt. And I said, well, if I'm the devil in a red dress. And everybody laughed except for the cardinal. He was a very serious man. I think religion makes people serious, but everybody else laughed that the devil's in a red dress. And I thought, that's pretty cool. So the thing about it was, when he realized, I said, sir, excuse me, with all due respect, you've just called me the devil. I'm in your country and I'm raising thousands of pounds to help kids with cancer. I'm not the devil. If I'm the devil, I've changed my tack then. I said, you should really look into things before you start accusing. Guys, I'll tell you a secret, which I shouldn't really tell and share with people. We went to the break on the news and he said to me, prove to me that you have a gift. And I said, you have 3 children. And the whole thing went quiet. And I said, I'll say no more. And he said, after he said, I think Mr. Smith has a gift. I think some people are given a God blessing, and I think he's one of them. And I thought, it's okay, I'll say Stum. I won't say another word, Father. You and I have an understanding now. So call me one of God's children, because I won't tell tales on you when we get off this program. And that's why I'm not telling tales on them. But the thing about it is, a lot of people assume that all mediums are charlatans, frauds, fakes, and many are, I have to say. Sadly, I hate to say it, but many are. Some are just deluded, but real mediums, I hope, will always be guided to help those who have had loss, because that's why it all came about, was that we can help people who are lost at a moment. One of my best friends who had lost her daughter, she'd called me and said one time, Gordon, I feel as though I'm not in touch with the world. Does that make sense? And I said, yeah. I said, I think mostly when you lose a kid, there's a moment where there's a delay in your world. You're a step at the side or behind or in front of everybody else. You're not totally present. And it's sometimes the instantness of a passing can leave you feeling completely disjointed, completely unaware of what's going on in the real world around you, because your world is completely, you're in a sense in an altered state of consciousness. Grief, hard-hitting grief, can put you into an altered state of consciousness. But a hard-hitting message from a genuine medium can send you right back into your proper state. And I think that's what happens to people. And I see some of you shaking, nodding your heads, because you'll know what it felt like when you got news. My son's gone. What do you mean? Gone where? And then there's that delay that hangs over you for however long after it, depending on the person. And that's a horrible thing. I tell you this story, guys, we will come to question, but it's important. For many years in my life, I worked in Italy, where I was sent from the UK to work with families who had lost children. It was a beautiful place called Casa dell'Albero, run by a woman called Carla, an Italian lady who had lost her son, Diego, and she set this place up. She brought which she believed to be genuine mediums from the UK. And we would go there 3 times a year and sit. Families would be brought from all parts of Italy, and we would just sit and spend, I think it was 4 days from morning to night, just reading for people, just one after the other, and always being translated in Italian, which was always great fun. I learned so much. I learned how to swear in Italian, not through my translator, but because one of the boys came through and swore at his mother, and I actually said it. And I am doing it again. I'm like, I'm actually doing the Italian expression, as you swear. And this boy said that to his mother, and the mother burst out laughing. My translator was shocked, realizing what I had said. And the mother said, that was the last thing my son said to me, but it was a joke. And she says, and he doesn't even know what he said. And I said, what did I just say? And she said, you told me to. And I said, oh no, I would never say that. She said, you said it beautifully in Italian though. So, so I learned so much there. But I think for all the readings we did, many, many different things. And something that I've carried. A lot of people say as a medium, how do you remember the things? You don't, but some stay with you. And I think this was one of my gifts from the spirit world, to always be able to recall this particular memory, because one morning I'd gone in and we were never privy, the mediums were never privy to any of the things that were happening out with our room, which we shouldn't be. And this particular day, man and woman came in, and you know they've lost a child. You don't need to be a medium, their age, whatever. You can see that. And you start to chat to them and tell them what might or might not happen. And the lady was very excited. The husband sat like that, completely uninterested. I looked at him and I thought, no, God, that poor man. Because, and he was being strong. And his wife was sitting at the edge of a chair waiting for everything. And I said, it's a boy you've lost. Yeah, I've lost a boy. I said, he was 17, and go on and on. And this is happening, and the man's still not moving. And his wife, yes. And I said, oh, his name is Roberto. So the man kind of flinched and went back to this, and nothing. And I carry on, and the woman's crying, my Roberto. And if Italian people, when they get a reading, are really, really expressive. You get hugged, or you get all sorts of things happen to you. But the woman was like this, and the man never moved, like this. And there was just a point, and I was thinking, come on, Roberto, tell your dad something, please. And we're going on and all the stuff that mediums say. And then just at the end, and I said, sir, your boys just said thank you for putting him in the ground at Juventus. That was his soccer team, Juventus. And the father took his son's ashes and buried them in the grounds at Juventus. Well, the man just, he just, wow. This lump appeared in my throat as well as his. Just a moment. And it was that moment that let that man just wail. It just let him let go. And I think it was a most incredible thing to be involved in, because he had been so staunch and solid for his wife, for his family. He was holding it all like this. And this moment was like, wow. And at lunchtime, I remember going around, all the mediums, we could then talk, and we realized these were all families who had lost children in an avalanche, you know, because now we're all mixing and talking. Did you read for? And we're chatting away, and then I see the man, and I was telling one of my colleagues, I said, oh, that's the dad that I told you about. And it was just beautiful. And I could hear his conversation, and he said, my boy Roberto, and my translator started crying, and I said, what? And she said, he's just said, today I really, really heard from my boy. My boy's alive. Well, I carry that because I think it reminds me of moments when I'm doing this, that how important it is, because each individual holds their own amount of grief in a very deep and dark place sometimes. And if you can reach that in a reading or a message, then you have the potential for it to open. I cannot give him back his son in life, but I can give him a better vision of his son on the other side. And that's what that man took away with him. My son is alive. That's all he was saying. My son is alive. And if that life is something you cannot hold again physically, but you can actually talk to in your mind, talk to when you walk, even when he goes to the soccer to Juventus, to know that his boy is with him. That's an incredible moment. And I think if mediumship has a value at all, guys, it's to give you the right to talk to your sons and daughters, not to think that you're being crazy talking in your own head. They do hear you. They are part of your journey. They always include themselves. And I hope that this group and any of the other groups or branches of Helping Parents Heal will start to learn, and hopefully in future I can come on and maybe do some teachings with you guys to show you how I teach people to find their own awareness of their loved ones. That you don't need me, because you really don't need me. What you need is the, if you like, the permission that you give yourself to say, my son's here, my daughter's here. That's what you need. And that's hopefully Jackie and I can set up a further appointment to do a session like that. I'd love to do that. The time we have allotted on this isn't enough to do all the things, but it's important for me to introduce myself and let you know where I come from with this. I really hope you understand that I'm not here to sugarcoat things for you guys. I'm really not. Death is a horrible bloody thing. But one thing we can take out of it from mediums, good mediums, true mediums, is that it's not the end, that there is another chapter to the story of the life of you and your family, and where they are in it. Because the joy your family have right now is incredible. And it's like, wow. For me, it was always the fathers that I found I really wanted to help, because a lot of the time, mums were very open to mediumship, or their friends were, or they knew people. But a lot of the time, the dads were walking on their own somewhere, usually with a dog, and just thinking, am I crazy talking to my child? Am I crazy? No, you're not. You're actually a parent looking for a way to find your kid. One parent told me once, Gordon, if my son ever comes through you or another medium, I treat it like a very rare phone call. I know I can only have one a year, and I treat it like that. He says, and I love it. Whatever he comes through and says, I enjoy that. It's the most wonderful phone call. He says, and I don't abuse it. I don't run around mediums all the time, which I hope none of you do. Mediumship is something that should come to you when the time is right, when the moment is right. You shouldn't really force it. It should happen. And when it happens beautifully, because it's orchestrated very well by the other side, guys. I put my life, my trust, and everything in them. But, you know, because we don't have a great deal of time tonight, I'm going to say to you all that going forward, this is only the first of many things I hope to be able to do with you guys, and many more. But going forward, I'm going to, myself and hopefully others, mediums, good, true mediums that I trust, to get for you guys to help you at different situations that you need us. Then we can step in, and maybe Jackie will be the one, I'm sure, to organise things like that, where somebody really needs help. Then we can step in and do that on a more one-to-one basis, wherever we can find all the time and people that we're looking at doing for you. But going forward from that, guys, I am more than happy to take any questions you have, because this is a lovely platform for you to ask anything, because you're all in a similar position. So don't feel embarrassed, don't feel restricted. If you want to know, what's my kid doing on the other side? Who have they met? Things like that. The stuff that people do want to ask. So what are they doing all day over there? Da, 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 da. You know, these are the things that people do want to ask. And men think differently from women. And sorry, Jackie, but it's a different, men and women have a very different mindset. They really do. Men think differently from women. And therefore, it's interesting to hear what men think of, where's my child, or does my child know this? Does my daughter know that? Da, 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 da. So please feel free to ask anything, whether it be through chat, or Jackie will, as I say, help you to unmute or tell you to unmute if you put your hands up. And I'm open to any kind of question, guys. I really am. Just treat me as one of the guys. I'll answer to the best of my knowledge. And if I don't know, I will say I don't know. Jackie.
Okay. First of all, we've got Warren. Warren, if you can unmute and ask your question.
Hi.
Hi, Warren.
Thanks.
Thanks for doing this, Gordon. I wanted to ask,
Pleasure.
I just had this question for the first time today. I've kept this list of questions, but so here's the question. I want to ask my son, like, I want to know what was it like for you, your transition, and what is this whole 2.5 years, been like for you? You were here, and then all of a sudden you're there.
Yeah, carry on, more.
That's mostly it. I know he's here, but I never thought to ask him what his experience was like for him, his transition.
But Warren, even as you're chatting to me, the feeling I get is of like, like in a moment where your life can change like this, just snap of a finger. I get the feeling of your boy going on with a life that was planned or was being planned going forward. And then all of a sudden he's finding himself in the other world. Like no pain, no nothing.
Yeah.
Just what the, huh? And it's that kind of feeling I get. I actually almost get the sense of a laugh, like, what the? And there I am in this other world. And there's no pain, there's no time. So 2.5 years doesn't even come into it. In a sense, for him, it's nothing. Because the only time he will register time is when he's connecting with you or your family. That's the only time, Warren, that he will even understand or recall time. Because the spirit world is almost tight. It's a timeless existence. So time would be measured by you saying it's Christmas. So it's 2.5 years since you're passing, da-di-da-di-da. So then there would be a kind of understanding of time again for a moment. But that's because it's your time and not his. So his time would be a state of almost bliss. Or I mean, I don't always have the words to describe the spirit's feelings because they're in a higher, like beyond my emotions. So, but all I know is I am completely at peace. There's a lovely sense that I get of him right now, and I don't know why, Warren, but he's showing me somebody lighting candles. And I get that you're in a place that's much lighter than where I am. And I'm wondering who the hell is lighting candles in such a beautiful light place. Because it's as though he's showing me somebody lighting a candle, and I don't think it's in a church or anything. It's actually in a house. And it's as though he's laughing at this, where somebody's certainly lit up several candles. And I think of the birthday that he's showing me. So that's what it is. And I feel as though it's his way of just saying, I'm there. Dad, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not in another place. I'm just in another state. So it's like that. I can be in your world when you need me, but I'm here. So when the birthday was, I was there right by your side. So something like a birthday or Christmas or a death day, a memory, would have them right by your side again. They would become more present in your mind and your life at that time. So we mark that and it calls them to us, but they are not held or ruled by it. So 2.5 years to your boy is like that.
Yeah.
Gone in an instant, but back and feeling it the minute you have a deep thought or feeling of him.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Warren?
It does.
Good.
Thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Gordon, we have several more hands, but if I just ask a question from chat,
Okay.
Russ wants to ask, how do I find out what the severe grief of losing my son is supposed to teach me?
Ooh, that's quite a question. I don't know if the severe grief itself is the teacher of anything. I think that's a human element. When we lose a loved one, the grief is there. I think the grief itself is not to be seen as like a strict or harsh lesson, but it is something that you, by your very own life, have to work through in a sense of, how do I do tomorrow? And it's usually like that, one moment to one moment. So if we see grief as an overall thing, it's like a heavy weight pushing down on us, depressing us, flattening us. But if we see loss, grief as part of the loss, this disconnection that we have, then we have to find a way to connect with the loved one and feel them in our lives again. Because even grief has a solution or has a point of healing. And that point of healing is reconnection. Because even the greatest doctors will tell you what the worst sense of grief is the feeling of disconnectedness. I don't know where they are. I don't know how to find them. So you feel this isolation from the one you love at that moment. And also as fathers, it can be really bad because you feel sometimes you failed your child. Now that's a personal feeling. That's not real. That's what some men put upon themselves. I shoulda, woulda, coulda. But these are all things that go on in your own head. So when you separate your own thoughts and feelings from the actual loss and go, well, my daughter died or my son died, then how do I go on for the rest of my family? And usually that is the thing that you have to focus on as the other people in your life right now. Your loved one in the spirit world is free of anything and will be willing you to get your head above that first step or that horrible step of grief that is depressing. And it's only when you can get your head above it and you can take a breath that you can start to see it from a higher perspective. But when you're in that and you feel like it's a punishment or a lesson, then really, truly try to find a way of seeing that from a higher perspective. It is difficult, but don't see it as some, if you like, retribution or punishment, because it's not. And it's not a lesson. It's obviously something we learn from, but it's not anything directed at you. So see it separately. It is loss, and that loss is disconnection, my friend. And try and find a way to reconnect from your heart to your loved one. And it's only one step at a time. You can't overcome it or conquer it in one moment. But it is a journey, and it's a procedure that you have to go through day by day. I wish I could give you a quick fix for that, but I don't think that there's one answer. I think there's a whole life of answers after a loss like that.
Thank
Okay.
you. Gordon.
Thank
Cool.
you. Okay, we'll come back to chat in a while, but I've asked Jeff to unmute. And Jeff, if you'd like to ask your question.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Gordon. Thanks so much for doing this.
You're welcome.
You actually touched on a little bit answering Warren's question. Yesterday, I was wondering if our kids on the other side are aware of significant anniversaries. And yesterday was 3 years to the day where we got the worst news of our lives. And it was very emotional the last few weeks. And I just wondered if our kids get that significant day from us, or if they're aware of the day, seeing they're in a timeless area. Does that make sense?
You know, one of the things, Jeff, I've picked up a lot from the other side is that kids, especially, you think about your child when your child was just a small baby and a child growing up. The first thing they learn is to feel what their parents are feeling. So even regardless of what we teach them by words, they feel safe when their mother feels safe, close to them. When their father feels strong, they pick up that sense of family through feeling, not through words. So the same thing in reverse, if you look at it from the spirit world, they will pick up your feelings and they'll want to be close, loving you and nurturing you when you come in. That sense of, oh my God, we're coming to that cliff edge. Oh, what's going to happen at the first anniversary, then the second anniversary. And then there's all sorts of stuff goes through people's heads of, am I okay laughing with my friends tonight? Should I be doing that? I've lost a child. Yes, you should. And that's what your children are coming forward to try and, if you like, lift some of the angst from the hearts of people. Because that's the stuff, it's the self-deprecation that we hurt ourselves with. And that's something you've got to realize. Your child would never, ever want you to hurt. So every time you feel that pain, think, what would they say? What would they be saying when I'm feeling like this? They would be saying, please don't. So, and again, think about them that way, Jeff, that the moment you have that deep thought, oh, it's coming to the anniversary, or it's coming to Christmas, or Thanksgiving for you guys, things like that, where you think they would be here, they'd be sitting in their chair, or they would be sending messages or doing something. They still are. It's just through a different medium. It's not through a cell phone or a computer or a telephone. It's through here. So listen for them in here. But yes, they can totally pick up when we become drawn to an anniversary, because they do too. So as you feel it, they feel it. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next we have Chris, and if you can unmute and ask a question, Chris.
Hi, Gordon.
Hi,
Thanks for
Chris.
coming on with us. It's good to talk
That's
to
my
you
pleasure,
again.
Chris.
I have a little bit different angle here.
Sure.
I've been reading continuously the last few years
Yeah.
about consciousness and continuation of consciousness and such, and it causes me to ask myself a lot of questions about who am I
Of course.
and the nature of that I. And I've come to believe that there's a piece of me that's over there that never fully came here.
Yeah.
And what my question is how do I, or can I, tap into something tangible with a thought that I'm there with my daughter now,
Yeah.
as opposed to her coming to me or not coming to me, as it's, whatever the case is. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And Chris, Michael, sorry. One of the I thought your name was Chris. Is it Michael?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm here.
I thought you said Chris, Jackie.
It is.
Yeah, it is. It's Chris Myers. He's here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
if we can ask, if you keep your hand up while you're speaking with Gordon, we'll take it down afterwards, and then Gordon can see you. So it's Chris Myers. Go ahead.
There's Chris. Sorry,
Yeah.
do you know what? That's what people were disappearing there.
Yeah, they're taking their hands down, and they should
Chris,
keep
do you
them
know?
up. Yeah.
Actually, one of the things that if I had a longer session with you guys tonight, one of the things I would have done, and I will do on the next time we do this, is to take you guys into one of these sessions that I would do with people, training you how to actually go into that space, to a more expanded space or a more expanded part of your own consciousness. And that's something that a medium does to work. A medium to go and do the mediumship has to go into a more expanded part of the self in order to, bring messages through, because it's not that your daughter has to come to you. The only time she can truly come to you or become physical in any way towards you again is if you become lighter. So you're quite right in your assessment of that. So that would be something that I would love to offer, doing a particular practice for you guys in the future. But yes, part of your consciousness is already there. So it's like, yeah, there's a part of you is already there with your daughter, but your daughter can feel you at different levels now that she couldn't have before. So she is already connected with the spirit, Chris, who never left there, and who your conscious thoughts, conscious actions, conscious deeds will return to when you leave your body. And that's the thing that's it's really quite Buddhistic in a sense, that you are actually not just here. You are an emanation of your spirit self here, or your conscious self. So that's what you'd be a physical manifestation of your own spirit while you're here. So when you go back, when the body drops, you're back there. And you're right back where you know you are. It's not as shocking to people to go into the spirit world, because when they go back, they realize I'm home, or I've returned. So this is the journey, this is the visit. There is home. So your daughter is already there. So instead of us calling them to come to you, you can learn how to go out to them. That is an exercise that I feel helps parents. And we did it with the Helping Parents Heal group last year, I think. And the people really had a big benefit from that, because a lot of them could really almost feel tangible touches and sensations. And you don't need a medium to let you do that. But what you do need is maybe somebody like me doing it, initiating it, if you like, so that I can take you through it several times, so until you get, hey, that actually works. Because again, men and women are different here. Women have a naturalness of expansion of emotional self. So a woman can walk into a room and feel a room probably quicker than a man, because women are trained to probably look after their children quicker. So they're sensing dangers and all sorts of things. It's almost primitive and primal what I'm talking here, but that's something. Whereas men tend to walk into a room and be whatever. I'll tell you a funny story that when I was married, my wife then, it was the time when women were wearing their rah-rah skirts, very short kind of rah-rah skirt. And I remember we walked into a bar, and as we walked in, there was two other women wearing the same skirt. And she says, one of them's going to have to go home and change because I'm not. And one of the women walked out straight away. And I thought, what are you talking about? But the same bar, I was wearing the same T-shirt as several guys. It was the fashion at the time, and none of us cared. So women immediately case a joint, you see? So when I do that exercise with the women, their mind goes straight into that. It's something they can accommodate quite easily. Whereas a lot of men will be analytical and go, but what if this? Wait a minute, what does that mean? And how do you do this? Well, where am I actually going? So men will maybe, in some ways stay very grounded. So therefore I can initiate that and teach people how to gradually let go and open up. And I hope I can do that for you guys at some point. But Chris, that is the way to do it. So you be your own medium, and you have moments where you get success, where you feel your daughter's presence close to you, and she will be elated that you're even trying that. The very fact that you sit down and say, okay, sweetheart, I'm here. I'm just going to sit and let your presence come into my mind. What you need is somebody like me when you get an experience or something that happens to say, was that my mind? That's where I can come in handy and say, no, Chris, that actually was something that did happen. And I'll tell you why I know it happened. So I can validate things like that for you. And I hope I can going forward. But you're right, part of you is already there. So, and that part of you, the stronger that grows, I mean this in the nicest way, then the more you will reclaim the connection with your daughter, because you're reaching out. And I don't mean desperately, I'm meaning you are expanding an awareness, and that will mean that you'll have a lovely connection and bond again with your daughter. That's the way to go forward.
Thank you, Gordon.
You're welcome.
I hope you've just answered somebody else's question on chat, because they were asking something very similar. How could they tell whether it was their own mind or whether they were really connecting? So I hope you've kind of addressed that a little bit.
I hope so. But the experience of something, one of the things I'll say to that briefly is that when you have, some of you might actually have had a very vivid dream of your child. Or even one of your other loved ones were in the dream, but it's more than a dream. There's a quality to it that you go, that was real, that wasn't a dream. When you have an experience, whether it be that type of meditation I've just discussed there, where you feel it and the feeling moves you and it stays with you, that quality tells you something more has happened in a dreamlike state. So that's how you know the difference. If it's something you can easily give away, then it was just your mind, it was just your brain coming in. If it's something that moves you and touches you here, you'll probably find something's happened at a deeper level, a more spiritual level, and that stays with you. You can't get rid of that. That's there forever after that.
Okay, before I ask Michael to unmute, we've got a question on chat from a gentleman that lost his daughter 30 years ago and a son a year ago, and he'd like to know if they've met and are they together having fun.
Well, I mean, even with, I'm not tuning in as a medium at the moment, but I would have to say yes, because the very fact that you're even asking that question comes from the fact that they too will probably be wanting to answer you, we've met in the spirit world. If I were a medium giving you a message, that would probably be part of the content. Oh my God, there's a young lady and a young man, da 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 da. It would probably mix like that. And it would be because you're actually having the thought. They would come in and tell you, we're together, Dad. And we've met, and we've also met grandma, and so on and so forth. And that's what they do. Because anytime you've got a love connection, even if it's a love that you have, that's in one branch of your family and somebody was in another, the very fact that you're the bond that unites them means that they will work to your mindset and they will actually connect because of you. So yes, they are together.
Okay, fabulous. So, in fact, several of the guys are saying that they would love to do a meditation session with you at some point. So, Mike,
Yes,
if that's
we'll do
something
that,
you're
yeah.
interested in, please get hold of me and we'll sort something out. Okay, so Michael, if you'd like to unmute and ask your question.
Hello, Gordon. Thank you for
Hi,
coming.
Michael. You're welcome.
I have a question about my son, Michael. I
Yeah.
so want him to come to me, and give me real signs. And I'm quite the cynic.
Sure.
If I get a little sign, I'll turn around and say, well, maybe that wasn't it. And I just would love to know, is he coming to me and am I missing it?
Do you know, Michael, it's hard not to be cynical. That's the first thing. Because you want it so badly. And honestly, I'll say to you, your son is definitely coming to you. And it's like, See when you're trying to see something that much or hear something that much, but you have to ask yourself, many people say to me, how do you hear spirits? Well, I've been doing it since I was a child. You know, no matter who's died, even when my parents died, I could hear them. When my cousin died, I could hear him talking beside me. So this is something that's part of my life. But you need to ask yourself, have you ever heard voices from the other side before? Or have
Yes.
you ever seen materialized spirits? So it's how we ask things, Michael, that can actually help us see the real message that's there. So I'm going to ask you something. When you think of your son, Michael, how do you think him? Is it in visual thought? Do you remember his voice, or can you feel what it feels like when you were close to him in a room?
I can feel what it feels like when I'm close to him in the room.
So sensitivity. So
And
that's
I
where
can hear his voice, and I can
and
all
you can see
three.
visions. Right. Well, then that's what you would have to work with. You've got clairsentience there, which is feeling him. Okay. So if you can remember what he felt like, then you can receive his spiritual information through feeling. You definitely can do that. If you can see pictures of your son in your mind, then you can ask him to give you pictorial messages. Now, the voice you hear inside you, or the voice you hear of your son, is it your memories of his voice, or is it what you think he'd be saying to you right now?
It would be what I think he would be saying to me, but I don't know if it's in my mind or.
Well, then you've got to set a little test for your son then to say, Michael, tell your dad what to do about this. Give him, and it's not trying to trick spirits or cheat spirits. It's not. This is you
Right.
saying,
No,
Michael, I just need this. I love you. I need this. So and say, in your time, will you tell me something or direct me to this or guide me to something, and then leave it, Michael. Don't ask a second question. Wait till you get the answer to the first and see if it happens. And if you find, oh my God, I was walking down the street and I heard my son's voice saying, Dad, turn, and I turned, and then boom, watch it for it like that. But quite often when we're cynical, we ask 10 questions and we don't wait for the answer to the first.
yes.
It happens so much. People go, so if you're really there, then let me see this. Well, if that's really you, let me do that. If you're there, tell me this. So no, just one question, Michael, and let your son, give him the opportunity to answer his dad and the way that it comes to you. And if it does, then remember the way it's came to you, because that's the way your son has chosen to communicate. It will be one direct way, first of all. Try that.
I will. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and next, Anu. Good afternoon. Would you like to
Hi,
ask
Anu.
a question?
Hi, how
Hi.
are you?
Good, thanks.
Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it very much.
It's my pleasure.
My question was on the nature of signs, just kind of comparing the ones that I get versus the type of things that my wife gets, and it seems very much like when my wife gets signs, they're a sensation that she feels, like on the side of her face or in her leg or something. It's very recognizable. When she feels it in her leg, she knows Julie is trying to communicate to her. And in certain cases that we've noticed that she's almost being directed to do something. For example, this morning, she's part of a grief group that is doing a Secret Santa. And so she's supposed to mail a gift of jewelry to someone in Toronto. And she was actually directed to a specific piece of jewelry that she saw in her head after feeling the sign.
Mm.
And for me, it's much different. I get numbers or pictures in the clouds or rainbows or things like that. And the nature of those signs to me are more like, "Hey, Dad, I'm here.
Yeah,
just checking in with you." But there's the difference in my wife is being directed versus my daughter is just telling me hi is the nature of my question.
You know, I don't know why it was actually in my mind even before you answered this question, asked this question, that I've mentioned twice tonight the difference between the way men and women think. And even before you asked, I thought there's going to be something here to do with the difference between the way men and women get messages. And that was it, and I think this is honestly it. So your wife probably has this connection with your daughter that she kind of talks to her. what should I do with this? A bit like I just said to Michael, give them a kind of project to do with you. Okay, if you're there, show me or direct me or whatever. Whereas you're, maybe thinking of her and then a rainbow appears. Or a song comes on the radio or something that you go, oh my God, so she's just saying hi. Her relationship with you is, hi Dad, I'm here. But with her mum is, oh mum, get her that jewellery. There's a kind of involvement in life with her mum. Whereas with you, yeah, Dad's cool. He knows I'm here. I just need to show him a rainbow. He's like, yeah, there's Julia. So it's that a lot of the time the spirit will react with us the way they did when they were here. So they won't change because they're spirit. So if I have a different relationship with, the way my mum has a relationship with me, and she comes to me in the spirit world, is different the way she'll come, say, through a medium to my sister.
Okay.
So for me, it's just, oh, mum's here. Whereas with my sister, there's all this excitement. My mum told me I should, do this to my house. I should help, make my children go to school more. I should do this. And I thought, well, in life, my mother directed all of her daughters and their children. But with her son, she would just let us do what we want. So I thought, mum's never changed in the spirit world. She still comes through and bullies the daughters and tells them to clean their houses and make their children go to school more, who they should marry and all this stuff. But with the guys, she's all like, yeah, you just go and have fun. So I think it's to do with how your relationship worked here. And I think Julia is just saying, Dad, it's just a sign to say I'm here. I'm just acknowledging you, and you're acknowledging me back, saying thank you. And
that actually makes a lot of sense.
Good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and Brian, good afternoon. If you'd like to unmute.
Good afternoon, Brian.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Are you located in Scotland?
Yes, right now I'm on the west coast of Scotland in Argyll, which is rain and snow and all things wonderful.
Wonderful, wonderful. I was just going to ask you what my child's doing.
Well, again, Brian, first of all, I need to be tuned in as a medium to get a contact with your child, but in general, the doing thing is a human perception of what they're doing.
Right.
So I can only give you a human perception that they are in a spirit realm, whatever. I tend not to do that because it's kind of the way spiritualism was in the Victorian age, that they're in a realm of children or they're in a realm of learning, or I don't see it like that. To be honest, for me, the spirit or the consciousness when it leaves this world is in a much higher evolved state than we are. So for me to get into that state with your child, I'd need to not be talking to you right now and going into a higher state of existence. But for me, your child is in a much more elevated or ascended space than you are or I am. So it's not so much what they're doing, it's how they exist, which is in a much freer state than we are in this world.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome, Brian. I hope so.
Okay, thank you. And next we have Dennis. Dennis, if you'd like to ask your question.
Yes, thanks, Gordon, for doing this. We really appreciate it. My questions, it's something that's bothered me for 2 years. I'm coming up to the 2-year anniversary, and in a couple of weeks, I had to take my son, Michael, off life support.
Yeah.
And it's always bothered me. Should I have waited longer? Should I would have could, it's those things
No.
I hear all the time. Was he there or was he already gone?
Okay, even as you're talking to me, Dennis, I just saw this lovely picture of a guy standing above you, actually, kind of with his arm over your shoulder, and just saying, you did the right thing. Just this feeling you did the right thing, Pops. And you know why? Because there's just this lovely feeling of the two of you having this great bond. It really is. It's not father and son, it's pals, it's friends, it's mates. And this is the feeling I get. A cracking looking big guy, just his arm around above you, looking down on you. But here's the thing. Now, I'm going to say this because it's one of the most loving things a person can ever do in this world, is to let somebody go. There is no greater act of love or most selfless act, because you have to truly love to take that responsibility. You really do. And in karmic terms, you're ending suffering, you're not ending a life, or you're ending a non-existence, you're not ending a life. So you are behaving as a parent should behave. And that's a big thing, Dennis. It really is. So honor that moment. It takes a big heart and a loving heart to take on that kind of thing. Then you did a great job. And I feel as though your lad's saying, yeah, you know what? You did the right thing, Pops. That's my feeling. And you know what? I have got to say Merry Christmas, and it's as if he's telling you to have a toast. Have a toast, okay? At the
Thank you.
Christmas
Thank
time.
you
You
very
do that and enjoy it.
very
And can I say, I've seen many scary phenomena as I've grown as a medium, but nothing as scary as the photograph on your thing earlier. That was really frightening, you know? That was worse than the Amityville horror.
Thank you.
Cool. But no, you did. Honestly, that is a big thing you did. Well done.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. I really appreciate
Fabulous. So Steve, good afternoon. If you'd like to ask your question.
Hi, Steve.
Yes, thank you very much, Gordon, for coming on
My
with
pleasure.
us today. And my family's from Wales, which, you know, is a nice
Ah.
blend of Scottish, Irish.
I've just
so,
come back from Wales, yeah.
all right. I like to say, you know, we can drink and fight.
So you can. I've seen
Well,
you do
being
both.
Irish and Scottish, you get the best of both worlds, you know.
Ah, you get everything there. You've got it all.
So we've spoken with several different mediums regarding my son. He was my son Mike. There's a lot of Michaels on here.
There's a lot of Mikes today in this world and in the other
Yeah.
world.
So across the board of them, Michael has said to us that there's something that we could do together that he could help us with on this side. And another medium said that my son wants me to build something. And I just wanted to see if you might be able to elaborate a little more on what this is, what this thing is that he thinks that we can do or build.
No, I'll tell you why I can't. No, because I'll tell you why I can't, Steve, is because as a medium, I don't think I'd ever leave somebody with that open an answer. So I don't know what these people have told you, that he wants you to do something. They haven't told you what it is. So for me, if I'm the medium and I say your son wants you to do something, I'd tell you what it is, because he would tell me what it is. So for me, that's too vague. So I can't elaborate. What I'd have to do is start a reading from the beginning so that I get the feeling in Mike, and then feel his personality, feel his presence, and then bring him through. And then there wouldn't be a thing left open. It shouldn't be left open. Mediums shouldn't leave things open. They don't leave you. They want you to do something and you say, what? Well, that will become clear. No, that won't. They shouldn't tell you that if they don't have the answer. So disregard all of that. I think your son just wants you to be happy. There's the first thing. I'd go for that one first. Try and find a balance. We'll call it that, not happiness. Happiness is a big reach for loss, but balance, just to say contentment for a moment. Look for contentment right now, and then the next part of your answer will come whenever I get a chance to do a proper connection for you, okay? And if it's not me, it will be one of my mediums, because we are hoping to bring on pretty good mediums to come and help you guys at some point to sit with them. So watch this space. But that question is too open, and I don't know why mediums leave things so open like that. I really don't. I would say your son just wants you and his mum to be contented. That's it. For now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Jeff, good afternoon. If you'd like to unmute and ask your question.
Yes. Thank
Hi, Jeff.
you, Gordon. My question is not about my daughter who passed away 2.5 years ago, but about my brother. I was trying to give him CPR. He passed away about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And my sister-in-law woke me up, said my brother's not breathing. And I tried to give him CPR until the medics got there and couldn't revive him. Is there a possibility that he knew I was trying to help him bring him back, but just the spirit's not there yet?
The other thing is when the spirit is gone, there's nothing can be done. When that moment it's his moment to go, he's gone, and all the CPR or anything else in the world won't bring him back. But the one thing he'll know is the love that his family had for him at that moment, that they tried. So your action, it's that action of trying to heal and help that will be registered in his
Mhm.
heart, in his consciousness. So yeah, of course he would know that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I would feel honestly that he and your daughter would be both very, very close to you coming up in the next short while. There's just a feeling of the two of them being part of
Thank
the
you.
whole
Thank you,
family
Gordon.
get together, because there will be a big family thing coming up, and I feel as though they will be there to mention them both. Okay,
Thank you, Gordon.
you're welcome, Joe. Joe, who's Joe? Joe.
Okay, and I think the last question we had,
Okay.
Matt, good evening.
Hi, Matt.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Appreciate you being here. Hey, I got a question. It's not even about my son. It's just kind of your opinion on, for the spirit world, do we get one pass through this life down here, or do you think that you can actually come back in different forms or different times?
Ooh. So like reincarnation or rebirth or something? Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's my own understanding of that, having practiced Buddhism for a while as well, that, yeah, we can actually, that we will come back. Yeah. That we will be on this role of learning, and that this life is a place to come and learn. So all these experiences of good things, bad things, all the different things are all part of life's rich tapestry, if you want to call it that.
Right. I've heard
How
just
it
different
works,
things.
how it works though, when you look at it, like if I'm a medium and I can get a message, say from your kid, you know, then you go, well, how can they reincarnate if you're getting a message from them? But it goes back to what somebody else said earlier. I think it was Chris that said, am I already in the other side and here? So if you look at it, that this life, the human life right now, so as Matt, as Gordon, this is only one small program on our consciousness journey. Our consciousness is massive. So it's like the hard drive. So this is just a program, Matt. So when this program ends, it goes back to the hard drive, but the hard drive can show another program, but all the map files is still there. It's a living file that as a medium I can access, and I can switch it back on again and bring it back into this realm. So it's like that. If you see it simply like that, but that's how I see it, that the hard drive is the super consciousness, if you want to call it that. And we are one program, and that program is determined by the different things we do in this life. And we take all that information back. Every hurt, every pain, every joy, every experience in this life gets added to our hard drive. And because of that, we can bring a better version of self forward next time. And this is why the world progresses. It's why the way mind progresses as we go forward. It's not because people read more books to become intelligent. It's because people experience more. They become expanded. So it's through our experiences of hurt and pain and owning our experiences that we actually register it in the hard drive. If people don't own an experience, if somebody hurts somebody and they don't take responsibility for that, they'll continue to hurt until they realize, oh God, I'm hurting people. Then that won't change. The same in loving. We learn through loving experiences what that does for people and what it does for us. So the same thing. So all these things that you feel, even in loss, there is a lesson, not a payback lesson, a lesson of growth at some point. People who come through what I would call the dark night of the soul, which is when you don't care if you live or die. And all of you guys at some point will have been there. When you walk through that point and you think, I don't really care, whatever happens now. But when you come out the other side, there's purpose, there's reason, the lesson has been got. I've got that. And now I need to stay alive. Now I need to help people. Now I need to grow. So from these horrible, dark situations that happen to us comes light. And from that light, we grow better. So each life we live, we'll experience more and more until our experiences teach us that we don't need to come here anymore at some point.
I appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome. I think that was a bit long of an answer for do we live again? Yes, we do is a simple answer.
Yeah, no, but I'll take the long explanation. I really
That
appreciate
long explanation
Yeah.
is.
Thanks.
There you are. I walked down the Buddhist path for a moment. Yeah, there you go. But thank you guys, and thank you so much, Mike, for inviting me to come on. And as I mentioned several times, I would love to come on and do, if you guys are up for it, come on and do a nice session where we go and I'll teach you what I do to tune into the spirit world, and let's see what happens to each of you as we go into that beautiful space. And hopefully something nice will reverberate in there and you'll all pick up just a little bit of love and reconnection. But guys, before any of that, I really hope coming towards the holidays, it's hard when you're coming towards the holidays with thought of the loss of a loved one, but I think when you get there, honor them. You know, how do we honor our loved ones? By realizing that grief is the price we pay for love. You know, it was our Queen, Queen Elizabeth, who, when she stood at the memorial for the Twin Towers in New York, and she said that to the world, that grief was the price we pay for love. And it certainly is true. And at Christmas, it's not so much the price we pay, it's more the acceptance of the love that we've lost that causes us to feel the grief that we feel. But when you come to the Thanksgiving for you guys and for the Christmas holidays, don't not think of your child. And if you're sad for a moment, then also try and remember what made you love them. Think for one moment, do you know why I feel this pain? Because I loved you. And do you know why? And think of one of the memories that reminds you that. Don't let grief take away your good memories, guys. Fight that and bring back the joy and the love and the beauty of the relationship you had with your child. Whenever there's a hard memory, think of a good one. That is the healing potion we have inside us to help cope with grief, not take it away, cope. For every pain, there's a joy. So find it. Don't let it die in you. Bring it back to life. And have, I hope, a really good, gentle, contented Christmas. Cheers,
you too,
guys.
Gordon, and thanks again so much for the time you've given us.
pleasure.
It's
Thank you, Gordon.
fantastic insight, and I'll definitely be in contact with Jackie to set something up.
Yeah,
Excellent.
if I can just say, if in between times, before we can get to that, some people have already asked on chat, but there's a lot of Gordon's recordings on his website. It's all free, and there's some of his meditations, some of his words and thoughts that you might like to look at the interim, may help you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Jackie.
Pleasure.
Cheers, guys, though. Have a good one when
Okay.
it comes. And
Thanks,
see
Gordon.
you soon,
Merry
I hope.
Thanks, Gordon.
God bless.
Everybody.
Yes.
Thanks, you
Merry
guys.
Christmas.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks,
bye-bye.
Gordon. Merry Christmas.
Bye.
See you
Merry
guys next
Christmas.
Wednesday.
Merry Christmas, everybody. I'll see you Wednesday.
Christmas.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, Jackie.
Bye-bye.